Hi, it's Ashley. I am here before you hear me intro the podcast with an intro to the intro of the podcast because I forgot to say that I have just updated my availability for taking animal communication appointments and animal consciousness general chat appointments. So if you were interested in getting a reading from me, those are updated and available on my Acuity scheduling page, which you can find the link to in the show notes and also on my link tree in my Instagram bio. It's at divine.dingo. And if you are looking to book an appointment and you don't see anything available that fits your schedule, just direct message me on Instagram or email me at divinedingopodcast@gmail.com. And we can work something out. I am still kind of all over the place with my schedule. I'm not grounded in any one location. So like I said, if there's something that you need and you see that I'm closed for a week and there are no appointments available, just reach out and I'm sure that we can work something out. Okay? Thank you. Enjoy the podcast. Enjoy the show. Feeling and releasing. Feeling while releasing. There is a familiar pattern in your voice. Taken off path, I have forgotten which track to choose. Endless timelines spiral in and around me as I lose touch with time. Cosmic alignment, divine intervention. Words matter less and less as we enter into another dimension. My lover in disguise, my relationship with existence. A familiar surprise. I carried pain that I denied for a long time that was just sitting inside. And when you showed me, I cried. And joy followed after the tears subside. Akasha, Akasha, Akasha. Familiar bliss, but another life. Hello. Knock, knock. Anyone home? It's me, the Divine Dingo. Welcome back to the show. I'm so fucking happy to be talking at my microphone and transmitting my voice through the microphone into the computer, onto the internet, and into your ears at this moment. How are you? I hope that you're doing well. I've fucking missed you. My life has been interesting for the summer, for pretty much the whole summer, pretty much all of spring and summer. I have been on many, many adventures that all come together to just form one lumpy adventure, one lump sum of an adventure. I was actively working on creating content, interviewing people, expanding, yada yada, all that good shit. And it all came to a screeching halt around maybe mid-July. And I sometimes just like take little breaks from getting the podcast out just because my energy is low, and that's usually it. But this time, it was so obvious that I needed to take a break from the podcast, but it was frustrating because I didn't feel like I was overworking myself or I wasn't being genuine or any of the reasons that I might believe to cause my... How the fuck do you talk? Does anybody know how to talk? Can you send me a DM if you know how to talk and you want to teach me how to talk again? So yeah, I had a bunch of interviews lined up. I was going to knock out like 4 or 5 in a week and then just have them set while I was traveling to just release bi-monthly like usual. And then they all got canceled. And I recorded one with Nimue, and the audio was terrible on my end. Nimue's audio was perfect, per usual. And then when I rescheduled all of them, I ended up getting sick and having to cancel. So it's just been pretty fucking obvious, even though... Sorry, there's a dog here. Do you want me to take it off? Let me take it off. I mean, I'm not sorry that there's a dog here. I'm just sorry if you hear her munching on shit. So, yeah. Anyways, I was asked either by my highest self, a future version of myself, my guides, what the fuck ever, to not record a podcast for a while. So, and I also just like didn't have the space to announce it. I just didn't have the fucking space for anything other than like surviving for the last 2 months for fucking sure. So, yeah, I'm just happy to be back. I'm sorry to leave you all hanging. I know that you guys are like right by your podcast app. Like, when will another episode come out? I am lost without Ashley yelling and rambling at me into a microphone. Well, you know, you are lost and you have been found because I'm back. And today I have a fucking awesome episode for you. My guest today is Gursev Sudwal, and Gursev is a part of the Soberish AOD community. We ended up meeting by chance in a small ass town in Colorado that I happened to be camping in pretty regularly this summer, and he just happened to be living in this summer. So we met up, we really hit it off, and we got to sit down and talk about talking to animals. We got to talk about Reiki. Gursev is a Reiki master and just an all-around amazing person and somebody that I really, really love and who means a lot to me. So I'm excited for you guys to meet him today. Some of you probably already know him. He talks a little bit about what he offers reading-wise and Reiki session-wise at the end. So if you're interested in that, you have to listen to the whole episode because I'm not going to fucking tell you now. I will link his Instagram in the show notes, and I will tag him in the post that I make about this episode. I probably should have asked him for more information on how he liked to be introduced, but I think Reiki master, amazing person, and dangly ear wearing guy is pretty much it. That's him in a nutshell. So I'm gonna shut the fuck up now and let Gursev take it away from here. Can you tell me about a time where you communicated with an animal and what that looked like for you?
I think the first time I communicated with animals was last year, and I was just cracked the fuck out for like a good couple of months, but I was doing like crazy spiritual stuff. So I think I had like a download where, you know, I just had this realization that to talk to anything, you just had to still your own energy. I call them vibes. I still call them vibes. You just have to calm your vibes down. Then you have to match the vibes of whatever you're trying to talk to. And then once you've like linked both of your energies, you could change your vibes to send out a message. And the first time I did this, I had a pet turtle that just loved trying to like kill itself and jump off my couch and my counter and shit. And then one day it was just like too far away for me to grab, so I did that. I just calmed down, looked at it, matched its energy, and I was like, don't do that, just come back into my hand. And this motherfucker walked like all the way back around the couch and just sat in my hand. And then after that, I remember one night, I think it was like a blood moon or something, but I went out and I did I think it was the greater invoking ritual of the pentagram, and I just had like easy animal communication that night. Like I'd just be walking down the street and looking at cats and being like, come here, and they would just like scamper on over. What else? I think I haven't done it for a long time, but recently I started doing it again with butterflies and normal flies and the likes. So, yeah.
What was your turtle's name?
He was unnamed.
You had an unnamed turtle?
I had 2 unnamed turtles.
Did you just call them Turtle 1 and Turtle 2?
Yeah, I would breastfeed them.
Were they snapping turtles?
No, maybe. They were small little shitheads, and they would always just try to beef with my finger. And I'd put it...
Yeah, when you were talking about matching the frequency or your vibes with their vibes, as you so elegantly put it, that's how I think the first time I experienced that was when I was trying to like tune a crystal to like remind me of something. And so it was the first time like I just watched like a YouTube video, but I like sat down and I held a quartz crystal in my hand and I just like took a moment to feel what my energy felt like in that moment. And then I took time to feel like what the quartz crystal felt like. And then I just like, it was almost like the quartz like raised up to me and I almost like lowered down to it. I don't know. We just matched frequencies. And once I felt that, I was able then to like tune the crystal to whatever intention I wanted to use it for. So that's what that reminded me of.
Well, you talking about that reminded me of like Kundalini shit and balancing like the divine masculine to the feminine. Like, I recently had this experience where I had like energetic Kundalini sex. But the way I perceived that is that there were like these 2 live streams, like the 2 Kundalini lines or vibes or whatever, and they would both be going up and down. And my job as one of them was to match the rate and the frequency of the other one. And it really just reminded me of vibing with the animals or just vibing out in an environment. It seems like you could do this with literally anything. It doesn't have to be like an animal, just an animal or a crystal or, you know, something in particular. You could just do this with existence in general.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, I guess when I vibe, I didn't even mean to use that word. When I am like intentionally trying to connect with like a specific energy, I don't ever really like look at, I don't know, I guess I just don't think about like I could just match that the frequency of like reality and like less like tangible energies or less like incarnated dense energies like you would like plants, animals, crystals, whatever. But the last reading that I gave someone, I gave to Nimue, and Nimue is like a safe person. What's up, Nimue? Nimue is a safe person for me to like experiment with on readings that I like, how I want to adapt my readings. And I really would love to teach people how to communicate with their animals in the way that I do it, not so that they do it exactly how I do it, but just so that how I do it in that moment inspires them to find their own way to do it. And so the reason I'm bringing this up is because I end up like protecting my energy. I put like 3 bubbles around my energy field. And I learned this technique from BJ King, and it was a way to protect yourself from being like overly empathetic to a point that it was like detrimental to your health. And so I started using this technique for that. And then one day I thought to myself, what if I tried this technique right before I did a reading and I wanted to see like what effect it had? And it ended up being one of the most effective ways for me to feel my energy and the subtle energies around me, to ground myself and to protect myself. And then once I had that, like, I mean, it's like a 5 to 10 minute technique. Once I had that down, it was so easy for me to like experiment with different ways of connecting in with the animal I want to communicate with, because I've tried so many different ways, not to find the best way, but just to find like the clearest connection. And so after I when I was telling Nimue about this, I said, you do whatever sort of like grounding protection technique that resonates with you. That part is very personal and subjective. But after you do that, then this is what I do. And if it resonates with you, then you try it. And so what I do is I just like tap into my heart space, and I imagine You can imagine whatever. You can imagine like, I imagine like a tube of energy going to the animal that I want to connect with. And sometimes I like have a picture in my head of like, if I've seen a picture of the animal, I'll imagine that. If not, I just imagine the species of animal that I'm connecting with, and then I'll say the name of the animal to make it more personal and direct connection. And then, I mean, you can make it whatever. It can be like a beam of light. It can be like a railroad track. It can be a road. It doesn't matter, like whatever resonates with you. And so then once that tube of light, I feel like it's connected, then I walk out. My ethereal body will walk out halfway, and then I will sit down and I will invite the animal to meet me halfway. And then once the animal does that, then it's like our energies are just kind of like spinning and dancing together. And then I'm like just asking the questions. Like I'll match the frequency. I don't even know if I'm intentionally matching the frequency, but it's really important to me, and when I teach people how to do this, that you ask permission and you invite, and you do not assume that any animal wants to communicate with you, even if it's been your dog for 10 years. Like, I mean, you can probably assume, that it is the animal wants to communicate with you, but I think that going into that right away with the connection is kind of insulting and disrespectful to the boundaries that the animal might have. So, anyways, that was a long ramble. What are your thoughts?
That sounds way fucking cooler than chilling and vibing out. Yeah, I try to just see it as like people, like, if I'm at a bar or a coffee shop and I try to talk to someone and they're just kind of not into it, like just treat any other entity or animal or whatever the fuck the same way. It is communication at the end of the day, in my opinion. Am I talking loud enough? That line is fucking small. It is communication at the end of the day.
I can edit it. But when we laugh, it gets really fucking big, and I'm going to have to turn the sound down on that because it's going to hurt people's ears. What do you think about, what do you think about tapping into other people's energies and, boundaries when it comes to that? What has your experience been like with that? And mine has been a fucking mess.
I have a couple different experiences with that. Like, when I first learned how to do psychic surgery, and it was just like being able to hold someone's energy in my hand and then do shit without grabbing a crystal or whatever. It was just like doing Reiki without having to hold anything. I tried doing it. I remember one day I was eating dinner with my mom and my sister, and I noticed my mom started having anxiety, so I was like, hey, let me just do some shit under the table real quick and try to calm her down. And then as soon as I got in contact with their energy, I just felt like pain just shoot up through my whole body, and I had to go into my sister's room. It was my room at the time. I go into my room and just have a seizure for 2 minutes, and I was just on the ground convulsing. But I also really do whatever the fuck. If I'm at work, I'm sending everyone Reiki. Everyone that goes up to the register, I set the intention that they'll receive healing whenever they need it, and I try to just send good vibes. And when I do it like that, I feel like I'm not really touching anything personal. I'm not really prodding into them. I'm kind of just sending something their way, and I feel like if they're down with it subconsciously or consciously, or not down with it, it'll play out accordingly. I kind of believe you could send Reiki to anyone at any time, but they're not going to receive it, even if they're if they're subconsciously closed off to it.
And you talk about Reiki energy being intelligent, and so when you send it to people, it almost knows where to go.
Yeah, there's a lot of times where even in myself, I don't know what the fuck my issue is, but I could just be like, hey, Reiki, do your thing, and it'll just go to where it's needed. And I found Reiki versus just general healing energy, when I just set the intention to send healing energy, I could just be a lot more autopilot about it, which is great if my intuition's not doing its thing that day.
Yeah, you were doing Reiki on my back. And at one point, like, your hand wasn't exactly where the pain was, but I felt like I just got really present with the Reiki that you were sending me to my back. And then I just kind of invited it to go where I wanted it to go. And it was like you and I, like, our energies were working together to get something done. And I felt like you've done Reiki on me a couple times, and it's really felt like it took both of us to really, like, allow the healing. And I feel like you did it on me for a few days, and then finally, like, one of the last times you did it, I realized that maybe I was resistant to fully letting you in. And then once I realized that, it wasn't even like I had to intentionally let you in. I just realized that I hadn't been letting you in. And then that realization just kind of, like, cracked open. And I felt like when you were doing the Reiki on my back, it was like, it almost felt like roots, or like we've been talking a lot about mushrooms and mycelium. And it felt like this whole, like, web, and it was just going to exactly where it needed to go. And, like, and it started in your hands, and then the web just kind of extended all over into my back, probably to all over my body, but my perception was just on my back and my back pain. And it was like certain areas had, like, denser energy and certain areas had thinner energy, but it was just like, it was this intelligent energy, and I felt that.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I mean, I haven't said it here, but I try to say it a lot. I'm just a facilitator of healing. I kind of just, like, a lot of times see myself as the straw that gets the Reiki to you, and the straw can't do shit. Like, you know, if your mouth is closed, I can fucking poke you in the nose and the mouth all day with the straw, but it's not gonna do shit. Yeah, and it's really nice when you can get really into the healing. And, you know, sometimes I feel like I can't tell where the boundaries, like, where our physical boundaries will end, and it's just like a part of me that's sending Reiki, and then the part that's receiving Reiki. And it's cool just, like, experiencing oneness in that way.
Have you ever tried to do Reiki on animals?
Yeah, I do Reiki on my dog a lot of the time. He just chills out and calms down. It's crazy how similar their issues are to ours, their emotional traumas and shit. It's like the exact same fucking thing.
Yeah.
It's the same pain.
Yeah, Jessa has talked about dogs being, like, I think she says, like, an outer
kinda?
hard drive. Yeah.
Yeah.
Which I don't know shit about computers. Are hard drives in the computer?
It's just your storage. Like,
Well, dogs are our storage. And what she was saying there was, like, her perception, her understanding, and the way that, like, she used language to define something that I also feel. It's like animals are our mirrors. And it is, like, if we have too much, like, I don't even know, I don't necessarily agree about too much, but if we have, like, energy that is really big, or if we're going through something that is, like, emotionally taxing, and just like pounding our energy, our animals will come in and take some of it from us and, like, help us process it. And I think that going back to, like, giving permission for energy work, or giving consent or something, I think that the consent happens with the animal when you decide to bring the animal into your house. And I think that it is like a subconscious energetic consent, because a lot of the times, like, people feel like their animals are doing something for them, but it's not always in the front of their mind that their animals are helping them heal and helping them process. But I do believe all of our animal companions do that. It doesn't really matter if it's, like, a dog, cat, bird, fish, turtle, like, they're all doing it. And I think that they're just such, they're so connected to earth and earth energy that they just naturally ground whatever excess energy is flying around. And that's why, too, a lot of readings that I give for people, I just have visions of their animal, like, being outside on the grass, because if they take and they anchor and they ground our energy, a really easy way for them to, like, give it back to the earth is just to be on the earth. And I mean, obviously we need to take our dogs outside and shit, and we know that, but however we can do that, like, if you have, like, an indoor cat or something, like, getting a plant, getting something that the animal can, like, ground and connect into. But I think that it is a part of
their agreement to incarnate as an animal from their higher selves. I was listening to somebody in the spiritual community talking about working with animal allies and like animal spirits and what they can do for you. And it kind of started to piss me off because of like my vegan activism sides of my personality, where I'm like, why the fuck should they be doing anything for us? Like, why the fuck do they want to do anything for us when like collectively our energy and our relationship with animals collectively, not individually, is we treat them like shit and we disregard them and we don't like consider them sentient emotional beings, and we like mass produce and mass slaughter them, and it's fucking disgusting. So I was like, why the fuck does cow spirit want to work with this bitch? You know what I mean? I'm like, what is she doing, eating a hamburger 2 times a day? Like, so it started to piss me off. And so anyways, I went to the river that day and I was hugging a tree and I was talking to the tree and I was like, I told the tree just what I said about that animal ally shit, and the tree said that they are willing to work with us and extend that energy for the greater good. And it's not just it's like not personal, and they understand. And I think what the tree was saying was they were speaking about like the natural world's relationship to humans when we like disconnect from them so much, but also when I have connected in with I guess like the higher, like the high, like the High Council of Animal Elders, which sounds fucking dope. When I connected in with them, they were like, yeah, I mean, we understand that when we incarnate as animals that you'll eat us and shit, and that's like a part of our agreement incarnating into this world. And like and we are animals and animals eat other animals, like it's just a part of the cycle, but there's no reverence for that relationship and that energetic exchange anymore. And so that's why the animals are like, something's gotta fucking change. And then that's why I incarnated to work with Gaia. Anyways.
I'm fucking sick.
Damn. Okay, I'm interested in Reiki because I've done some like energetic healing on animals. Like when clients will like call me and you know they're like, I'll see the body of the animal in front of me and like my consciousness is guided to like different parts of the body, and then I was just like, fuck it, let me see if I can just, well, maybe I can just imagine like my ethereal body like going in and just like moving the energy around. And so maybe that's Reiki and I didn't know it.
So when I started Reiki, it was all emotional healing. It was all feel and release. That's what Reiki is to me. Like any healing I do, there's no, I almost like, okay, hold up, let me get my shit together. There's psychic surgery, which I learned like in January, and I haven't really used much, and that's where I see a lot of like, that's when I'm doing like the moving energy around and closing shit up and pulling shit out and sending like golden energy. And then there's Reiki for me, which is just all feeling, releasing, just feeling and releasing. And I almost like, yeah, they're both important, but the feeling and releasing, I feel like, is what attracts all the other shit that you have to like move and seal and clear and cleanse and banish and invoke and all that sort of shit. I don't believe you can do any really long-term any really impactful healing by just moving energy. You know, I almost feel like if that's what you're doing all the time, maybe you're spiritual bypassing with spirituality. That's kind of how I feel about like past lives and shit too. Like it's cool and fun and it feels good, but that's what it just is for me. It's not the real work that I feel like you're supposed to be doing. Yeah, Reiki, I was just taught anything you want to heal, you wade yourself into it. You just completely submerge yourself in it until it's not what it was. And it's a lot more flowy and passive to me than the psychic surgery stuff, which is a lot more active and hands-on. And they both can be in their own way, but I don't think you can fight the Reiki. Like, I can't just like move sadness out with energy. I just have to sit in it until it, I get the love that's behind it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, when I was seeing it in the animal's body that I was working with, it was almost like I could see that there was like physical pain, and what I could offer to the animal in that moment was just like breaking it up. So it just felt like there was like a dense cluster like around like the shoulder or something, and I would see it and I would just offer my energy to just like go in and just like break it up, and so that it could move around and process out itself, like whether through their like pee or poop or just like movement or whatever.
Okay.
So that's what I was seeing.
Physical pain, I have to say, I do experience it differently versus like the emotional shit. Like chronic physical pain, I always think it's just linked to like emotional, mental shit. But if it's like an actual injury that's happened, then you could definitely like do some shit by just like moving energy and helping it out. I've noticed when I have like an actual injury, like if I like roll my ankle and try to do Reiki on it, I feel like for me, it really just like speeds up the healing. Like I'll feel, if I start doing Reiki on an injury, it'll start hurting like 10 times more, but then it could be fine within like a day versus a couple days. Like it really just seems to just speed up the whole process, including the pain and everything.
Yeah, it's interesting that you say that, because I didn't tell you this, but when you were doing Reiki on my back, it would like, once I like really let you in, it started to hurt a lot worse. And I felt like it was like you were bringing it to the surface, and then it could just like relax and dissolve or whatever.
Yeah. I mean, I think it just, there's no way to just get rid of it.
You got to
Yeah.
feel it.
Yeah. At least at the moment, maybe I'll complete that soul contract where I could just change reality.
That'd be sick. I think you probably
No
could.
one has to heal anything.
Yeah, it is frustrating sometimes to find like harmony in the experience of knowing your highest self, knowing your higher purpose, knowing that you're fucking magic, and then also having a human experience.
Oh my god. I can't believe I have to shit and eat.
Oh, dude, if I could just get rid of peeing. I like eating, like I find pleasure in it, but I also have a like eating brings me comfort.
I enjoy it. I just hate the fact that I have to do it.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
Existence is like, you have to do this to live. Fuck off.
Yeah, I don't like being told what to do. Like, I think my body is the one living being that I'm like, all right, you can tell me what to do. We can work together here. Because when I try to tell it what to do, it's like, bitch, sit down and be humbled, and drink some water.
Give me a vegan burger.
I mean, there's a reason why I'm like vegan, gluten-free, don't eat processed sugar, try to avoid caffeine, like need 10 hours of sleep. Like it's I've fought this most of my life. I would love to, if there's no suffering involved, I eat fucking pizza and nachos every day and like drink beer and shit. Oh yeah, I'm also sober, so
No, loser.
there's just so much. Fuck you. I did want to go back and talk about what you were saying about feeling the feelings, because before I met you, I had realized, like, I don't know if it was this year, maybe it was like early this year, because like something came up, like some fucking heartbreak from when I was 18 was still like in my body, and I was really kind of pissed about it. I was like, what the fuck is this still doing here? I've already processed this. And then I realized that for many reasons, I had turned to my mind to process an emotional experience and an experience of the heart. And once I had like logically processed it, I packed it away and I'm like, oh good, I'm done with that. And then I would just carry this like heaviness and the sadness with me, and I didn't know where it was coming from. And it was always really frustrating. And there were like moments where, I don't know, like a friend and I would get into a fight or something, and it's like logically I processed, like I could see where they're coming from, I could see where I'm coming from, it all makes sense, bigger picture, and we're good. But then there would just be this resentment towards them, and I would get like mad at myself because I'd be like, no, you already understand this situation. And so basically, I wasn't feeling my feelings.
Yeah, you just stuffed it in a box, huh?
Yeah, but so many people my whole life had told me how sensitive I am, like overly sensitive and like overly emotional and yada yada. So I thought that I didn't have to put any effort into feeling because like I'm just such a sensitive like being. But I think that I at a young age was like I feared the depth at which I feel things, and so like it was just safer to do it all in my mind.
Yeah, you kind of like get in this loop of like feeling the symptom of the feeling, which is usually I feel like just like a weaker feeling, and then be like, nah, I did it, I'm chilling, and just like
Yeah.
But when you fully feel that shit, you know, it hits different.
Oof.
And it could just, and it's really like, you know, Reiki's cool and shit, but all it does is just let me feel. Like you could do this without the Reiki, like I'm sure it'd be harder for me, but it just like creates that space, and I feel like it just naturally pushes things in that direction. I had the same fucking issue growing up. I'd like cry while watching like Lilo and Stitch and shit. Charlotte's
That movie
Web.
hits hard.
Oh my god,
Dude, Charlotte's
man.
Web, you brought up two pretty sad movies though.
Yeah.
There are moments.
But then there's like no one around me in my family's crying, no one at my school's crying, and like, you know, even if no one told me like, oh, don't feel this, which they did, but it would still like, you know, it still made me feel weird. Like, why am I, like, the only one that's so fucked up about this spider dying?
Because the spider was a metaphor
I don't think my
for your own pain.
Yeah. No, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And, yeah, and it just really fucking alienates you, because it's like a shitty feeling, but then also it's something that's, like, so... like, it's... You don't see it anywhere else, and you're just like, okay, I'm just this weirdo that does this weirdo thing.
Mm-hmm. And that's even more isolating than you already felt.
Yeah. Yeah, and so you're like, okay, let me just learn, like everyone else, to be fucking normal, and then you've like spent 22 years like in this programming of boxing your shit and trying to throw it somewhere else. Which doesn't really work.
Yeah, and then you start projecting onto, you know, experiences, events, and people in your life, and you see them as the issue and as bad and as like, you know, you need to fix this about yourself in order for me to enjoy you more. And it's just you projecting your pain onto them and your unprocessed shit.
Yeah, it's like if you had a fucking... what's it called? Like a giant scrape just like on your body. And so like no matter where you go, there's like air blowing on it, there's fucking dust and shit going on it. And it's, you know, it's not really a big deal, but you have this fucking wound that's just open and festering that you're trying to ignore. It's like that fucking insurance commercial where that dude has like an arrow through his head. And he's like, I'm fine. I'm chilling.
I can't say I know that.
I don't know what insurance it was.
You got the listeners need to know.
Oh my god.
Yeah, I first became like savvy, I think that's the word, to like the idea of projecting early 2020 when I first found like the soberish community. And it was just like, once I realized that I was doing that so often, and then I was like healing past trauma through present relationships that had nothing to do with the past trauma. I think maybe I was talking to you about this, but it feels like when I don't consciously sit with my feelings, that my consciousness goes into like an autopilot where it's like, well, you're gonna fucking process your trauma, and if you're not gonna consciously do it, then you're gonna project onto people around you, and that's how you'll do it. And once I realized that that's kind of, I mean, I could go in and like change that contract, but I think that it's a really good like temperature check on myself to see what am I avoiding when I realize I'm projecting onto people. Cause I realize it really quickly what I'm doing. Like, because I know that every experience is internal, and that the people and surroundings in your outer world are just like a green screen. And Jessa brought up that idea, and that really resonates with me. And so when I catch myself like having a feeling towards a situation or event or something is like triggering, I'm like, okay, where does this exist inside of me? Where does this experience exist inside of me? And going back to like how I mentally processed everything and then just avoided my heart, I realized that I am kind of like scared to feel the depth of my emotions because they're fucking deep, bro. And it's like terrifying to open that floodgate sometimes.
It's fucking terrifying. It is, and it can be the most painful shit sometimes. Like, I think when I started, it was a lot of sadness, which, you know, ironically now, I find it to be the easier emotion to deal with compared to like anger or disappointment or hatred. But healing is, you know, feeling shit is super painful. It can be physically painful. I've had releases where, you know, afterwards I'm like coughing up blood, or like I'm having bones like move into different places, all because of just like emotional healing. So you can imagine, I'm thinking you can imagine how that could feel emotionally, where the release causes you like crazy physical shifts.
Do you think that is because of how much emotion exists like within our physical body?
Yeah, I mean, I think your emotional body, your mental body, your energetic body, your physical body, you know, they're all linked. Sometimes I feel like the physical body is just like the crystallized form of all these other bodies. I think Damien Eccles said something about like you're not a person with an aura, you're an aura with a person, and your body's just like the most crystallized form of that. And I wanted to say about when I'm like avoiding some shit that I need to process, I'll feel ungrounded and I'll have a really hard time being present, and that's always like a good like indicator that I have something to deal with. Like I can't meditate or sit in my body because I'm trying to avoid that pain. And something interesting I've noticed the past couple of weeks is that if I don't process shit long enough, it'll like split my being into different parts. Like there'll be a part of me that is scared of the processing, and there'll be another part of me that is pissed as fuck at myself for not doing the processing. And it's like, I think it makes sense because there's a part of you that really needs to heal, and it knows it needs to heal, and your body, I think, is a natural healer. And then there's another part of you that's like going against that natural flow of shit.
What do you think about like really allowing yourself to feel joy in the same way?
Not the year to ask me.
Because it's like I almost feel like sometimes that is fucking scary too, to just like
Feeling
really
joy.
allow yourself to really just like settle into like, damn, I'm just fucking like happy, like I'm just feeling great right now. And Amy Spicer said that like happiness is fleeting like sadness is, but joy is like a choice that you can make every day. And I'm like I'm just like a painfully optimistic person. And so I feel like once I actually let myself process maybe feelings of more challenging feelings, then right afterwards, I just feel like enormous amounts of joy and gratitude. And yeah, I guess you said it's not the year to... I think you've been feeling some joy recently.
I have. My whole viewpoint on joy and love is I think that is the natural state of everything before we get fucked. So, you know, I feel like when you heal your shit, it can come up, it'll start to come up more and more naturally. But, you know, there's always shit happening, quote unquote, externally, like the planets and stuff. This year, it's been really hard for me to access joy, despite being in like a great place and having great experiences and shit. I think, you know, there's a certain trauma you can build around joy where maybe you've had your hopes up in the past. Like having joy and then having it be taken away, I think really fucks me up.
Well, what has like what's been the difference of your experience in your like work with magic or spirituality or whatever fucking word you want to use from last year to this year?
Okay, yeah, I'll tie this into the joy too. I think last year it was really like I was doing work and it was light, but there was like this sense of optimism to everything. Everything was really fun and like I'd say pretty new. I think there's like this big growth, like a big bang last year. And then this year, I think it might just be like some astrological shit because as soon as the year started, I was just getting fucking clapped. Like, I was just emotionally fucked as soon as this year started. The spiritual shit, I would say I'm kind of over like novel shit this year. Like I really just want things that give me results. And then that's kind of been what I've been basing my practice off of is what is this doing for me, which I know sounds kind of like capitalist because everything does something, but there's a lot of things this year that I just kind of see as fun now, like past life shit. You know, I feel like I've processed a lot of the trauma around it, so now it's just more for shits and giggles. I don't see a lot of, I don't want to say value because it's cool, but I guess like expanding to the goals I'm trying to achieve this year, which is just being solid and healing and being stable and getting my shit together. Astral projection and shit, super fun. But yeah, I haven't been doing too much of that this year. I think I'm really trying to get to a point where I could just do things by thinking about it. Like some fucking crazy ass magician dude came into my work a couple of weeks ago, and he was like, yeah, I don't make sigils anymore, I don't meditate anymore, I don't do anything anymore, I just think, and my reality is just immediately shaped by it. And I don't know if I want to get to like that degree, but you know, like when I want to manifest a sandwich, I'd like to just think about sandwich and have it instead of having to make a sigil, which I have been doing. I've been manifesting sandwiches like a motherfucker.
Yeah, you have.
When I got the when I got the toroidal field update, the magic donut, that was like the first thing I did. It was just like
sandwiches.
Yeah, just vibrating at sandwich frequency.
Damn.
Just sending that out.
Yeah, well, when you were talking, like my experience with like manifestation and creating what I want it's happening so quickly. And I feel like when I tried to sit down and like really get in, because I love Damien Eccles and I love like the idea of ceremonial magic and having, you know, consistent rituals and things like that. Like I like that idea, but I am trying to find harmony in how my energy likes to work and play with reality and how people teach how to play with reality. And I don't love a lot of structure and routine. And I actually feel trapped by structure and routine. And I don't love old white men telling me how to use my magic. And I think like a lot of magic is like gate kept by like old white men.
Fucking Reddit.
I don't know anything about that.
Reddit magic, it's just so fucking pretentious in my opinion.
Yeah. But I think that like there is something to be said about how like I think that like my personal experiences just go to show and validate what other people are saying about how reality is shifting now, that like I feel like I've like skipped a lot of like the basic shit that magicians, like ceremonial magicians, are like, you have to do this one practice for like years before you can even imagine manifesting sandwiches at an extreme rate. And it's like, I just don't agree with that. And I don't know if that's like me being a millennial and wanting everything now, or
the way I saw Damien Echo talking about shit, sorry, my bad, is that whenever he talked about that shit, he all like, I remember one time he was specifically like, this is to develop your spiritual aspects. Like he said, you could do the LBRP every day, but it's building up your spiritual body. Like it doesn't have really have to do shit with the physical. Like it's it's more on that side.
Yeah.
And getting further on that side. Like he said you could do that. I think someone said, it was him or some other dude, who was like, you could do this shit every day and have like the shittest fucking life and not be able to manifest anything. And a lot of times a lot of like bad shit will happen to you because it's like strictly going the spiritual route. It could potentially cut out any bullshit in the physical that is not strictly needed for the spiritual.
Oh, and that can be a disaster in your
in
your 3D life. Like,
Yeah.
and I think too, I don't know if it was Damien Eccles. I know it's a lot of people that work with angels, archangels, just angelic energy. It's like you have to be really specific when you ask them for assistance, because if you're like, yeah, I really want to get a new place to live, and they're like, all right, and then they burn your house down. Yeah, it's like they'll get you where you want to go, but you have to be specific about like nobody gets hurt, I don't get hurt, there's no trauma, like a path of ease. And I think that that just reminded me of what you were talking about. Like if you focus too much on like one aspect, like if we spend too much time in the ether, then we could lose our house, our car, our job, our friends, because we're not down experiencing being a human and like just caring for like the life of a human.
Yeah, I think a good example. Oh, my bad. I was getting excited.
Go ahead.
I think a good example, like ceremonial magic doesn't even have to be like Damien Eccles type shit, like high magic. A good example is I did a freezing jar ritual for unwanted energies, and that's technically a form of ceremonial magic.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you know, I don't know what constitutes it, but you know, I had props and I don't know. The jars and the ingredients and shit made it ceremonial. And Alyssa from Mermaid, from that Message in a Bottle Healing, said that ceremonial magic can be severe. And what she meant by that is like, you know, if I'm like meditating and I'm trying to manifest some shit and it's not in my best interest, it most likely won't happen. Like a spirit guide or something will handle it. But if I do that with like a freezing jar or like some ceremonial ritual, it will be severe, and like I will get exactly what I asked for. And the results of that jar was that all that energy was being frozen and taken out, and that resulted in my legs just giving out for like a week.
Damn.
Yeah, but it worked.
Yeah, I feel like if you're gonna like do some intense ceremonial magic, you gotta like tell a friend, like just in case my legs stop working.
If I go missing in 3 days, can you take the fucking jar out of the freezer and I'll just poof back into reality?
Yeah, please. Damn. Yeah, I guess that I was thinking like ceremonial magic meant like a steady everyday ritual, which I love to do, but I also like go through phases with it, and I try not to be hard on myself about those phases. Like I was just showing you that journal that I had, where every single day I automatic wrote. Like every day I would wake up, poop, meditate, and automatic write for like months, and then it just like fell off. And I think that there's a lot of like pressure. Maybe it's from like the patriarchal capitalist Christian society that we are all victims of. Just like telling us that we have to stick to this thing in order to see results. But maybe like my automatic writing every day and having that routine served its purpose for me. And then now it's like, okay, I'll move on to something else. But I still carry this shame that I'm almost like not doing something correctly if my patterns shift. And so then that's kind of where ceremonial magic has been like intimidating to me, because I'm like, I cannot guarantee that I'll be into this in a month the way that I am into it now. And I don't want to like have loose ends or something. I don't know. I just want to be like really intentional when I do magic. And so basically I just do a lot of moon magic, because that seems like I'm like easily guided to do that, and I can just take a lot of baths and say that I did a ritual.
Yeah. Nimue was telling me about, I had a reading with her a week or two ago, and she was talking about the capitalist wounding and how that's something, you know, probably most of us are going to have to heal. You know, in ceremonial magic, I like how Damien Eccles describes the lesser banishing ritual as like doing calisthenics. You know, you'll get what you put out. I mean, you'll get what you put in. Yeah, I've been pretty lazy with with being on top of shit. I feel like a part of me is like a little burnt out about just like doing shit like on a new moon, and you know, oh, I gotta do this by this, like this week, or I gotta manifest this shit by this time. Like I almost feel oppressed by the fucking planet. I fucking hate Saturn sometimes.
I actually kind of agree. Like these last like moons that came around, I just wasn't in the mood to do something, and it didn't feel right to like force anything in that moment. Like it just felt like I would be betraying myself and like where I was in the moment. But in the past, when I lived in Eugene last year, I had like a whole setup. I had my altar. I had just everything at my disposal that I needed. And I mean, I guess I've been like in a liminal space the last 5 months, like on the road. So it's been hard to like anchor any sort of ritual practice. But I mean, just being outside is a ritual to me. And like, yeah, I've even heard my friend Ava talk about like, I don't know, there's like something called like a moon matrix about like not working with the moon so much. Mm-hmm. Ava, you got to come on my podcast and talk about that because I'm going to butcher it. But yeah, I mean, I don't feel like there needs to be so much structure to magic. And I feel like that's how I feel about what you do. Like you intuitively just follow what is coming up for you and then like base your magic around that. Would you say that's a fair description of?
I tried to. I'm not sure if this is a capitalist wounding, but I always like have this thought come up of like when I don't want to do shit consistently, like am I stuck in like a cycle of just not like, do I really not want to do shit, or am I used to like not doing shit? And then that's when maybe, you know, I'll spend a day or two just trying it even if I don't feel like it, and then if I still don't feel like doing it, then I'm like, okay, that's that. The pillar of severity and the pillar of mercy. I get worried, I get stuck in the pillar of mercy when I like feel like I don't want to do shit for a long time.
What is that?
So in magic, those are like, I think people sometimes talk about them as the left hand and the right hand path, but basically it's just, there's the pillar of mercy, which I see as like the intuition and the flow and just like going with things. And then there's like the pillar of severity, which is like, I see it as the structure and the strength and like the rigidness. But if you go too far into either of these pillars, it's not good news. If you go into the pillar of mercy for like too much, you turn into mush. And if you go into the pillar of severity, you become too brittle. Mm-hmm. And so you just have to balance these two aspects.
Yeah, and I think that there is like we as higher dimensional energetic beings and as humans, there's these waves and these ebbs and flows to energy, and we cannot always expect to be productive or consistent or whatever. I mean maybe some people can because like that's their energy. I mean, talking about human design, some people have consistent amount of energy and they can organize it throughout their day. I'm going to give this much energy to this task and really work and feel empowered by that kind of structure. But I don't know. I think that this year has been teaching me a lot about the necessity of rest and really just allowing. And it's been really fucking hard because I don't like to sit still and I don't like being told what to do. And I feel like a lot of this year I don't think I'm being told what to do. I think I'm being a little bit dramatic for the humor of it. But like my body is like, if you do this, you will see great results. Like drink water and sleep and don't pressure yourself to do anything ever. And I really love that. And it's been really fucking hard with the podcast. Like, my guides just straight up would not let me record an episode for like, I don't know how long it's been, like 6 weeks ish. I've had so many interviews lined up. I've had so many different cancellations either on my end or their end. Audio shit wasn't working. And it was just like, the old me would have fought it so hard, but this year I really just looked at the situation and I said, okay. I mean, I did fight it for like a week or two. And then it just kept getting worse and like more unorganized. And then I was like, oh my God, I don't look professional to people and I am blah, 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 blah. And it's like, none of that really fucking matters. But it's really hard to implement that. And especially when I feel like I'm still trying to like grow the podcast and I don't know. I mean, it just seems like a capitalist structure of success that does not resonate with me, but sometimes I feel like I'm crazy when I follow intuitive hits about not trying to expand something that's a passion of mine, because, and I also feel like maybe other people will perceive my lack of activity on Instagram or how unavailable I am for readings for a certain amount of time, or like how I'm not producing a podcast as me not giving a fuck. And that's like so not true. Like, this is a passion of mine, but it's also like, okay, just because something's a passion doesn't mean you have to like grind at it 24/7, which is what capitalist society tells us, and kind of what you were talking about earlier with like marketing and like how they like
marketing.
give you a structure of how to be successful with like something that you're passionate about in like a capitalist structure, and it's just like
you just hate it. Like, after
soul-sucking.
a month they tell you to pick something you really enjoy and you do, and then it's like you can't stand that thing after a month. What you were telling me, it reminded me of some shit that I was clearing up a couple weeks ago, and it had to do with expectations. And so I remember I missed doing push-ups one day, and it like gave me anxiety. And when I looked further into it, it was just like it had a lot to do with these expectations that were put on me as a kid that weren't even fucking related. It could have been like, oh, can you find the screwdriver in the garage or some shit. But having these expectations that I wasn't able to meet as a kid, and that like kind of creates this anxiety in me to achieve these goals that don't really necessarily need to be achieved or shouldn't have to be achieved for me to feel good. And a lot of times these expectations have nothing to do with the fucking goals. Like, even doing the thing would not satisfy this shit, because it was like more of a wound of not being able to fulfill expectations rather than drive to want to fulfill expectations. It's more like I don't want to fail these expectations that don't exist anymore, other than in my fucking pain body or whatever.
Yeah, and then that just comes back to like following that feeling back to its source, and then realizing it's something just from like childhood that actually doesn't have anything, like you just said, like doesn't have anything to do with like the current situation, and then just like feeling those feelings and then allowing it to pass. And then it's like, oh, okay, now I'm just like even more of a free sovereign being now.
Yeah, I mean, I think that process was like following that feeling back, and it's almost like I feel like reliving those memories in reverse. Like, you get, I think the first sensation was like, oh, I'm never gonna fulfill, like, just like the doom of not being able to fulfill shit, and then that leads to like this anxiety of wanting to fulfill shit that isn't in reason, and then that goes to like true desire of just wanting to do shit that makes you happy, and then that will just like it like unravels itself. And it just goes from like less shitty emotion to less shitty emotion, and then you're just left with like that original feeling, which was just for me, just wanting to do shit as a kid, like let me just go fucking jump off this thing for fun, or let me just scribble on a paper for fun and not feel worried about the end result.
Yeah, and that's the beauty of us wanting to come and experience being a human. It's just to like fuck around down here.
Yeah.
And then we get down here and we forget that we decided to come down here. We forget that we're like fucking magic beings. We forget that we're gods of our own reality. And then everybody around us is like, okay, so here are all the expectations we have of you to
Don't fuck this
produce.
up.
Don't fuck this up or you will not be loved. So yeah, that's pretty much it. Have fun. And then it just becomes like this traumatic fucking... And we're in like our 20s and we're like, all right, now I have to sit down and heal everything.
If you don't find this screwdriver, I'm going to traumatize you for life.
I'm going to find it. I'm going to hit you with it. Yeah, my mom told me 2 things about myself that are fundamentally not true when I was young. She said that well, okay, one of them is pretty true. But she said that I was a follower. And she said that I like never finish anything. And then when I like got into human design, the criticism that she was giving me at a young age was reflected in my chart as just the way that my energy worked. And like she was only criticizing me because she feared that in herself, which I understand that now as an adult. But me logically understanding that doesn't make like the feeling in my body go away. Like I have to go back and like feel that and blah blah blah. But yeah, I'm a manifester in human design, and I have an open G center, which basically means like I am who I hang out with. So I'm not a follower, I'm fluid and I'm adaptable. And plus I just like fucking like going on adventures with people. And if it's like something I've never done before, sure, I'll follow you. Like I'll take your lead, whatever. But also it's like my energy is to pull shit out of the ether and bring it into this reality, like birth an idea, and then have people around me that have the energy to follow it through if it's something that we want to create. And that's cool. Like everybody has their own energetic imprint and blueprint. I don't know, fucking pick one you like. And that's fucking cool. And it just like, it was not cool to my mom because she didn't like understand that. And I think like as we've gotten older, we've healed that together in our relationship, but it was something that like as I got older, I just knew that about myself because like the one person that loved me the most told me that. And I was like, so it must be true. And then I realized like, oh fuck, wait, I decide what's true about me.
Yeah, at least now you do.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah, it's really wild. I think, when you're kids, like the people that you want love and affection from the most, and for the most part they do love and affect you. Fuck. I don't even know what I was saying.
That's cool. We've been talking for an hour.
I don't know. Okay, so any trauma I've had, that's been like, I feel like 95% of everything just goes back to like that like parent shit and like childhood shit. Mm-hmm. I can experience something from like 3 years ago that I thought was its own thing, mm-hmm. but the only reason it's even in my body is because there was some shit prior to that, like in childhood.
Damn, we fuck up our kids. I'm so glad I'm not a parent. That is so much fucking pressure. Like every little thing, like I don't remember who said it, but you can have copious amounts of trauma from when you were a child and you fucking drew like 2 lines on a piece of paper and you took it to your dad and you're like, hey dad, look at this thing that I created. And he was like on the phone with his boss, mm-hmm. just having a bad day, and he dismissed you. And then you're like, oh, I'm a failure as an artist. My creation process is stupid and I'm not loved. And it's like, Jesus Christ. And then, yeah, everything goes back to fucking when you were a child. And I don't have a great memory. So it's like, I can't remember. Sometimes the shit that you talk about with your childhood, I'm like, how the fuck do you remember so specifically what
I remember
happened?
Shit from when I was like 2. I don't know what, like, I've had a really good memory ever since I was a kid. I was also thinking about the reverse about that. Like, I think last year I was healing some shit. My dad came in and I, like, went off on him.
Yeah?
Like, yeah, it was about, like, I think, like, a recital he missed or some shit. And it was just, like, fucking me up. And I tell him about it, and I'm like, you better fucking fix this. And he was just like, I'm sorry. I worked that day.
I was trying to, like, keep food on the table for our family.
Oh, man.
God.
And and it's also, like, it really, I think, just goes to show how internal and projecty everything is. Because, like, I got what I wanted out of that. I got an apology, and I know, like, he felt genuine.
Mm-hmm.
Like, whatever remorse or whatever I wanted him to feel, he acknowledged it, but that still doesn't fix the feeling within me. It really all is internal from my experience.
Fuck. Why can't we have external enemies? Everything is a projection. It's exhausting. Well, we've been talking long enough. I'm getting tired.
Yeah. Sounds like a good podcast to me.
Yeah, I think so. Do you want people to find you and connect with you?
To find me? Just show by my RV.
Just tell us your address.
Yeah. If you would like to find me, you could add me on Instagram at the Dancing Hierophant. I do like Reiki and other stuff sometimes.
Are you currently offering stuff?
I am, yeah, and it's always free, so, what do you got to lose?
Are you interested in, like, energy exchanges, like reading exchanges and stuff?
Yeah, I'm down for whatever,
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
All right, well, thanks for coming on my podcast.
Thanks for having me, Ashley.
I don't think I have any updates, so I guess I'll just see you later, losers. Say bye.
Bye-bye.